Hello, this is Lady Alexandra. Welcome back. Today I'm talking about theories on the ancient origins of the tarot cards. Almost as fascinating and mysterious as the tarot cards themselves is their lack of proven origin. Different writers have proposed various geographical routes, including Spain, southern France, the Far East, and Egypt. And part of the tarot's richness is that it has elements in common with so many different countries, myths, and legends. One theory suggests that tarot originated in China, where playing cards were definitely used before the 11th century AD, but there is little other evidence to support this. India is a possible birthplace, and it is feasible that the four suits of the Minor Arcana could refer to the four castes of Hinduism: the cup to the priests or Brahmins, the sword to the warriors or Kshatriyas, the coin to the merchants or Vaisyas, and the rod to the serfs or Sudras. The major arcana has possible links with Buddhism. The fool could be the wandering monk whose path of enlightenment parallels the path taken by the tarot fool. The first documented appearance of the cards in Europe can be traced to 1392, when a sum was entered in the court ledger of King Charles VI of France. The entry stated that money had been paid to a painter by the name of Jacquemin Gringonneau for 3 packs of cards illustrated in gold and diverse colors, ornamented with different devices. In 1377, a certain brother, Johannes, of Switzerland, wrote an essay in which he described a game of cards which outlined the state of the world as it was then, in terms of society's structure. He went on to say, however, that he was entirely ignorant of when it was invented, where, and by whom. He suggested that the cards portrayed kings, noblemen, and commoners, and could therefore be used for moral purposes to map out a society and its structure, and to teach people the lesson of knowing and keeping to their place. Brother Johannes appears to have taken the suits to represent the classes of society: cups for the churchmen, swords for the aristocracy, coins for the merchants, and wands for the peasants. At the time tarot first appeared in Europe, Christianity reigned more or less supreme. The church was busy stamping out paganism and vanquishing unorthodox Christian sects such as the Waldensians, Catharthi, and Bogomiles. The chivalric order of Knights Templar also fell from the church's favor early in the 14th century, and the order was destroyed. However, a large number of doctrines preached by heretical sects survived and are today collectively known as Gnosticism, meaning a belief in esoteric knowledge. Gnosticism often combined Indian, Chaldean, Persian, and Egyptian magical doctrines with Greek philosophy, Hebrew Kabbalistic belief, and teachings of early Christianity. It is from these Gnostic cults that many esoteric arts have evolved, including, quite possibly, the tarot. Ironically, many of the forbidden pagan cults and doctrines survived within the walls of the church, which was trying so hard to obliterate them, for the monasteries preserved documents on the old religions, including conjuring and spell books. As the images on the tarot cards are mainly pagan in origin, and the gods of the old religions become the devils of the new, the cards were sometimes referred to as the devil's books. It is probably for these reasons that many people even today fear that the tarot is something evil or devilish, connected with black magic and witchcraft. At the time of a revival in esoteric and occult interests in the 18th century, certain French occultists claimed that the tarot originated in Egypt and contained the purest doctrines of the Egyptian priests, who were said to have concealed secrets in the images of the cards to protect and preserve them from the uninitiated. They thought the cards had been brought into Europe by the gypsies, who were then believed to have emigrated from Egypt. The pioneer in this school of thought was Antoine Court de Gébelin, a clergyman deeply interested in the secret lore and doctrines of ancient Egypt. This was a subject which enjoyed extremely fashionable attention at the time, along with all sorts of other esoteric and occult matters. Court de Gébelin thought the tarot images of the major arcana were remnants of the Book of Thoth, and wrote a highly acclaimed book in which he connected the major arcana to the secret beliefs and traditions of ancient Egypt. He brought the tarot overnight recognition and made its use and understanding essential to all true occultists. According to Gébelin, the ancient custom was to stand in the temples of Thoth, whose walls were adorned with pictorial images representing the major forces governing the patterns of life. The person wishing to consult the gods would throw a loose bundle of rods at random, and as they fell with varying emphasis towards one image or another, the priests would interpret the patterns which were known as the words of the gods. Out of this custom grew the practice of carrying the images around in card form, the unbound leaves of the sacred book of Thoth, Hermes Trismegistus. In this way, consultation with the gods became much less complicated, and any room could be turned into a temple simply by producing the pack of cards. The origin and history of the minor arcana of the tarot cards. It is not known whether the major and minor arcana were created together, or whether each was a separate tradition and they simply joined forces along the way. The minor cards are an often neglected but very important part of the deck, and in readings they add detail and fullness to the deeper, psychologically significant major cards. The major trumps give information and guidance on the seeker's inner life and psychological state. The minor cards expand this with details of relationships, work, creative potentials, strife, and success in a more specific way. The major cards are said to be spiritual, while the minor are regarded as mundane, and the court cards act as a bridge between the two. Once again, the root of the minor arcana's symbolism could come from various quarters, some of which have already been touched on briefly. Another theory put forward by Jesse Weston is that the tarot emblems, the wand, the cup, the sword, and the pentacle were connected with the 4 Grail hollows or sacred objects found in the Grail Castle of Arthurian legend. Miss Weston thought that such arcane wisdom was a secret of the 14th century Knights Templar, who are believed to be privy to the inner mystery of the Grail. The tarot suits and the Grail hollows couple thus. Wand, the lance of Longinus, the Roman soldier said to have pierced Christ's side as he hung from the cross. Cup, the Grail itself, the cup used by Jesus at the Last Supper. Sword, King David's legendary sword of the Spirit referred to in the Old Testament. Pentacle, the plate from which the Last Supper was eaten. The 4 Grail hollows seem in turn to have descended from the 4 treasures of Ireland, the magical emblems of Celtic myth. These treasures of Ireland were said to have belonged to the pre-Christian Celtic gods known as the Tuatha De Danann, or the people of the goddess Danu. The chieftains of the Tuatha were expected by their people to maintain well-being and prosperity of the land through their supernatural powers. The gods were aided by 4 magical treasures: the Spear of Lug, the Cauldron of the Dagda, the Sword of Noaga, and the Stone of Fall. These 4 treasures show striking similarities to the 4 Grail hollows and the 4 tarot suits. Wand, the Spear of Lug, a supremely versatile god known to his people as many-skilled. Legend goes that when he arrived, wishing to join the Tuatha De Danann, he was asked by the guard to state his craft. Lug replied, "Carpenter," and was informed that the Tuatha already had a carpenter. Lug added that he was also a smith, only to be told they already had a smith too. Lug then claimed he was not only a carpenter and a smith, but also a warrior, a harpist, a historian, a poet, a sorcerer, a hero, and many other things beside. Each post was reputably filled, but when Lug demanded to know whether the court had a single member who possessed all these skills, it seemed they had not. So Lug was triumphantly admitted to join the Tuatha De Danann. When we come to look closely at the flavor of each suit, we will see how admirably this tale fits with the suit of wands and their element, fire. Cup, the cauldron of the Dagda, the Allfather, could never be emptied, and no one left with his hunger unsatisfied. The Dagda was known as the nourisher of all his people, and his inexhaustible cauldron was even able to bring the dead back to life. This treasure is connected with the cups and their element, water. Sword, the deadly sword of Noada, king of the Tuatha, was so powerful that, when unsheathed, no enemy could ever escape it. The suit of swords associated with strife and battle connects with this treasure, and the element, air, fits well as the element which seeks out the inescapable truth. Pentacle, the stone of Fal, the coronation seat of Irish kings, was said to cry out loud when sat upon by the rightful king of Ireland. The stone of St. Columba, a cross-patterned stone found in old Celtic churchyards, seems to have connections with the stone of Fal, which, like the stone of Columba, was also found floating magically upon water. The Siege Perilous is the Arthurian equivalent of the chair in which only the true high prince could be safely enthroned. This treasure combines the earthy and yet magical quality attributed to the pentacles and their element, earth. As can be seen from these similarities, the tarot seems to combine, in a way too striking perhaps to be coincidental, Judeo-Christian symbols and mysterious Celtic images. The same combination of Celtic elements and Judeo-Christian motifs emerged in the Grail romances, those mysterious and poetic compilations which began to appear around 1180 to 1200 and took European culture by storm. All that can be said for certain is that the tarot, like the Grail legends, reflects a synthesis of diverse currents of the thought and tradition prevalent in Europe at the time tarot first appeared, and it is possible that there is a link between them yet to be explained by historians or scholars. The Grail legends reflect a path of personal development and integration, which make it clear they are not merely stories but are symbolic of the process of striving towards self-awareness and illumination. In about 1250, the Church heavily condemned the Grail romances because of their pagan and heretical motifs. Although the idea is not proven, it may be that an explanation of the Tarot's existence is as a pictorial version of these legends, coded as a pack of cards in order to preserve.